welcome back to my channel. So today I want to discuss the day 6 and 7 of the State versus Chauvin trial, and it's getting a little heated, people. So in day 6, they talked to at the time was the head resident of the emergency room that originally took care of George Floyd when he got into the emergency room. He is now a doctor at this time, but back when the incident happened, he was a resident assistant, the head resident assistant. Anywho, he and again, I have my notes, so I may be looking down from time to time while I'm speaking to you because I want to make sure I'm getting everything in. And again, before we get fully into what I have to say, I am no expert. I am not a lawyer. I am not a judge. I am not a doctor. None of the above. It's just me and my measly opinion. You can either disagree to agree or agree to disagree. It's up to you, but this is my thoughts, my feelings, okay? All right. Now, so the doctor stated basically that they had confirmed and concluded that George Floyd died from asphyxia. They did run some other tests on him at the time he was at the hospital to see if there was anything else. But in the end, they concluded it was asphyxia was the reason he was deceased. He also stated, because he was also asked by the defense upon cross-examination that if they would have gave him a Narcan shot, would that had revived him. He went on to explain to them that he had been without a heartbeat for over 60 minutes. Narcan would not have helped him in any shape, way, or form. He also went on to explain that every minute the brain has not received oxygen, the less reviving can be done. His exact words, quote. Yeah, that was it for the doctor. So the doctor explained it. Basically, asphyxia will kill. Nothing more, nothing less. After, I don't know if I mentioned this day 6, people, just so y'all know. So after the doctor left the stand, the chief of the Minneapolis Police Department got on the stand. And let's just say he does not support one bit of Derek Chauvin's actions. After he was done giving his background and how he moved up the ranks to become chief, that's when they got him into discussing the training and how it's required from every officer to stay up to date in their training every year, and for when they supposed to receive it. I guess it is a time appointed. Each officer is supposed to do it, and all. That's right. They also went specifically over the use of force, when it's appropriate and when it's not appropriate. They also went over with him de-escalating the situation and why that was important, which he went on to discuss that the point of de-escalating situations in the particular neighborhoods is to help build a good rapport in the neighborhoods with the police officers. It makes it easier for them to work the neighborhoods, get information from the residents in the neighborhood, especially if they feel the police is on their side, which they won't feel that way if there's no rapport with them. And building rapport deals with, in some instances, when it's a situation going on, de-escalating it and finding other ways to handle it versus force. And basically, he feel every officer should work by that standard. This is what they teach, and this is what he expect his officers to do while they out here in the field. As we all know, that was not the case with George Floyd. They were no.
Where are you finding that?
So, the commander of force training, he testified next. I do not remember the gentleman's name, but he went on to testify that Derek Chauvin was a training officer. So that means he had to do extra training. And I'm sorry, I'm saying it's not he is a lady officer that is the commander of the use of force training. I apologize for that. It's a lady who's the commander, a Miss Commander. She went on to say that Derek Chauvin had extra training in these things so that he could understand how to even recognize if the officers he's training doing it right or wrong, which further makes you look at the tape like, okay, clearly he need to do retraining, right? Anywho, so she also said that she did not know what tactic that was he was using in that video because it was never taught in any of their training programs. And she is not the only higher up that says this, which we're going to get to in a minute. So that was pretty much day 6. Now today, day 7, was a little, I'm going to say, feisty. And the reason I'm saying feisty is because it is. The first person to testify he didn't testify. It was basically the issue. So the first issue of the day that was handled before the jury was even allowed in the courtroom was the Maurice Hall situation. Remember I told y'all in it might have been first and the second video I did, he insists on he does not want to testify, and if he is forced to take the stand, he will plead the fifth because of self-incrimination. Basically what am I trying to say? I can't get it out. Sorry, y'all. Basically, Maurice Hall, according to his lawyer, because his lawyer was in court, he was appearing in court through a television screen from the jail he's in, because he's actually in jail right now for domestic violence. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I got a feeling, number one, they claim this warrant that was out for his arrest for domestic violence is 2 years old. I'm thinking, yes, I want the prosecution to win in this instance. I do. But I think they playing dirty with Maurice Hall. This arrest warrant been out for 2 years, and y'all just simultaneously call him a couple of days ago before he was supposed to have been testifying, and even though he refused to testify, I don't know if they call themselves trying to force this man to testify or not, but it didn't work because his lawyer was in court today and said, look here, there is no guarantee that if my client testify, none of this will come back on him. She and he are afraid that because of what's coming out in the court that he is the one that George received his drugs from, he can be charged with third-degree murder. And they want basically some type of deal in writing stated that if he used to testify, he would not be charged with third-degree murder in George Floyd's murder, basically. Smart cookie. Well, I guess I should say his public defender is a smart cookie. Anywho, basically, without that, they're asking for them to drop the subpoena for him to show up in court to testify, because as far as they're concerned, it's not happening. He will plead. The judge did say they were going to discuss it I believe he said to Wednesday, which will be tomorrow or Thursday. They supposed to discuss and decide on it then. But I guess what he asked the defense and the prosecution to do was do like a pre-list of questions for Maurice Hall. He's going to read over them, then he's going to send them to the lawyer. They're going to read over them and see if that's okay. If the judge finds the questions are okay and will not incriminate him in a murder case charge if they choose to bring that upon him, and he still don't answer the questions, then he could be in contempt. If, however, the questions do implicate him where he could be charged for third-degree murder, then he understands if he wants to plead the fifth, and they would accept that and move on. So, I guess we'll see how that unfolds. That was the first issue of the day. To that day 7. Next, the second person that spoke up, and well, he's technically the first person to testify, would be the lieutenant of the training division, and this man. I don't know if I think with this lieutenant, he found it harder to really have to testify against Derek Chauvin. I think he was more of the we shouldn't be crossing the blue line type of officer. And the reason I say that is because, yes, he was testifying for the prosecution. And excuse me a second.
Still pay my bills is the best thing.
You can succeed. You can.
He was testifying
You can graduate high school
for the prosecution, and he did agree that the only position they train, which they have pictures of, where the officer can use their knee on you, is if the knee is on your shoulder and the shin of the leg from your knee is on the back, your back. So the knee should have never went past the shoulder part of the person they're pinning down. He also stated that once the person is in handcuffs, then the force use should have decreased. And then they should have saw if they could de-escalate the situation instead of maintaining a force. But then when he was cross-examined, he proceeds to say that sometimes a use of force, extra use of force continuing, can be a way of de-escalating, which, yeah, don't make sense to me. I don't know about y'all. No sense to me. He also went on to state in a couple of the videos that his shin looked as though it was on George's back, but he couldn't say exactly where his knee was. But when cross-examined by the prosecution, he did state that once the officer has control of the person, he do not agree with a continuing force happening. The continuing force should have lessened, and went on from there. He also agreed with the prosecution that if he had a crowd around him screaming, "Hey, you're hurting him, he's dying," he would have looked and reassessed and made sure that the person he was pinning was okay. Which we all know Derek Chauvin ignored the people that was standing around him screaming, "You're killing him and he's dying. He can't breathe, you're hurting him." He ignored all that. All that. The defense is really, really trying to put out that this was an aggressive crowd, like it was a mob of. He making it seem like there's almost a freaking riot going on in the midst of them holding George down. That's how he acted. He acting as if these people in this crowd was literally coming for them while they were trying to subdue George, and that's not even the case. I don't even understand how he keep trying to argue this with all this tape evidence. And then he's trying to say that the camera the people recording with is not always showing everything around, but like as if the police camera ain't showing the same crowd. Anywho, after the that was the lieutenant, right? Yes. Okay, so that was the lieutenant of the training division. The next person that came on was Nicole McKenzie, and she was in charge of the training for CPR, the Narcan, and all of that, and she's in charge of that department herself. And now, with her testimony, she testified that basically they and when you are in a situation where a person stopped breathing, how soon are you supposed to start CPR, or are you even supposed to start CPR? And of course she said yes, you definitely want to start CPR as soon as possible. And you definitely want to continue to do it until someone more qualified than you come along to help and take over. Or you are literally, the only way you should stop is if you are literally too tired and at this point where you could harm yourself if you continue going. Which we all know he didn't offer CPR, he didn't check a pulse, he ain't doing nothing. Not a nothing at all. And let me go back to this lieutenant of the 4th Division. He stated that if someone's knee was on someone's neck, they can't check the pulse like the ambulance worker said he was trying to do with CHAUVIN on his neck. But if you recall, I told you that the emergency worker explained he was trying to get a pulse and could not, and he had to physically ask CHAUVIN to get off of him to check it, which is why the second ambulance worker checks his pulse after all 3 cops got off of him. Anywho, back to Nicole McKenzie. So she went through explaining that if there is a time where if the police feel in fear of what's going on around them, they do not perform CPR. And that it is normal for a ambulance to do a pick up and go and then try to perform CPR and stuff on the patient if they feel they are in a unsafe situation. They will just come pick up the patient and go and try to CPR somewhere else. So, am I the only one finding it disturbing that all these people so scared of people who have not tried to attack them, haven't thrown anything at them, not even spit in their direction. None of these things. But y'all are so terrified of the what ifs. This man is now dead. That's how I'm seeing it at this point. This man is now dead because a bunch of terrified folks is around him, holding him down. Again, I think we need a test to show how scared you are of other people walking around before you become a cop, because I just don't feel a cop should be that freaking scared of his surroundings, especially of people who has not done. They called you out your name, so you scared. This man's life was worth nothing to you because you were scared that a group of people was calling you out your name because you were killing the man there. You never stopped to think that maybe if you showed you cared about what you were doing, got your knee off his neck, maybe that would have calmed the crowd down, right? If you would have bent down and checked his pulse itself, maybe that would have calmed the crowd down, right? Okay. Anyhow, as Nicole continued to testify about the different situations and when CPR should be given and not given, she also was questioned by the defense in cross-examination about excited delirium. And honey, when that came up, they shut it down. I don't know why. They did a sidebar, and if you are not watching the court proceedings with the COVID-19 restraints and stuff, when they do a sidebar now, they do it with headphones. The judge has headphones on, all the lawyers and the person who's the defendant and his lawyer, they all have headphones on with little microphones, and that's how they talking to each other for sidebars. So we are not hearing anything going on in the sidebars, which I really wish I could hear what was going on in these sidebars. Because I want to know, why did the state put a stop to the questioning when it got to the excited delirium? I don't know. But she did explain to us that the excited delirium is a person that's being affected by drugs or whatever. And it really depends on the person themselves. Sometimes the drug can give them like superhuman strength where they can move stuff that a normal human wouldn't be able to move. Or sometimes it could just make them really vulnerable and they just go downhill where they can't really do anything for themselves. They can become weak and stuff anyway. So it really just depends on the person dealing with it. And the only person, one of the officers did bring it up and was recorded on their cameras on them, which was Officer Lang. He asked, "Do you think what this is?" Chauvin answered no. He didn't, because he didn't care. But anywho, the state shut it down, so we have no further talk into what that was about. But she also agreed right along with, in the end, when the prosecution came back to do another cross-examination after the defense, and the bottom line is she felt that he was on his stomach with his knee on his neck way too long. And after it was plenty of time that after they gained control of him, where he could have been put in a side position where he would have been able to breathe better, and we wouldn't have the problem we have today, which the man is dead and gone. So the next part of the drama. The Sergeant Jody Stagger, who is from California, he took the stand. Now, this man, from his resume, is like an expert in everything you could think to be an expert in, and he seems to not be slowing down. Apparently, this is a top A expert. And right when his testimony, so they ran down and I do mean and it was a lot of his background, what he's certified for, licensed for, what he's an expert in, like got the degrees and paper to prove it, got the paperwork to prove it. That's when they got into breaking down the video, and the defense stood up and was against it. They had a sidebar with the judge, and he cut it for the day. Right when we was getting to the juicy honey, as soon as he said that he felt like it never even, when once George was pulled from the truck, he had already given up on fighting, stated so, and his body language spoke so, which you can see him go lax. He also discussed the fact that it could have been de-escalated if Chauvin wouldn't have stepped in, because, was it Lee? Officer Lee had already gained a rapport with George, where he was talking with George, and George was talking back to him, responding to him calmly, which you do see in the video. Once that came out, that's when the defense objected. And when the defense objected, and they did the sidebar, That was it. Judge said that was it for the day. Sent the jury out and shut us all out. So he didn't even do what he usually do at the end of the day, which let us know what time court starting tomorrow. So I don't know how they done made him mad or what. I don't know, but I sure enough will let y'all know. So far that's day 6 and 7, and I would just like to say, as a side note, on a serious note, they had I'm watching it on Court TV. I'm not sure. I know they're showing it on CNN, but I am not sure if they're showing it on CNN the way they're showing it on Court TV, because Court TV are, according to them, the only ones with an actual camera crew in the court. So we're watching it as it happened live. Now, the reason I'm stating this is because during one of the breaks today on day 7, his family lawyers held a press conference outside with Al Sharpton, Reverend Al Sharpton, who offered a prayer to the family and friends that was there that day for the court. Who's basically, they sitting here listening and watching their family member be murdered over and over and over again, because this video is getting broken down, so there's pretty much nothing else to break down. And then on top of it, we're seeing videos that was never even shown before they showed them in court, which was the police video cameras and also the city cameras that's on the street itself. So you're seeing this happen from all angles. I don't even want to try to imagine how his family is feeling at this point in time. I do not. I feel so bad for all families who have to go through this. It's almost like, okay, you know you did what you did, so why can't you just say guilty and get your sentence and move on? But we know that's not going to happen. So I really hope and pray this family gets some justice out of this, because the bottom line is, I don't care how much his lawyer tried to argue that George was pumped up on drugs and it possibly the drugs is what killed him, or if he the fact that he keeps saying the reason they didn't try to resuscitate him and offer CPR is because of the crowd around him, the angry mob around, because he keep calling them a mob, and it wasn't even enough of them to be a mob. But yeah, he did all of that useless, because the bottom line is, like I said before, playing devil's advocate, let's say it may have been the drugs. You still didn't even offer him no assistance to try to stop that from killing him. Y'all just did not care. Period. And you cannot keep telling me you're scared when you're sitting here with your hands in your pocket on this man's neck. And then when you look at the police cam of the other officers, one of them had the nerves to be checking their nails like this. Looking at his nails. But y'all was so scared. Y'all couldn't offer this man no CPR or nothing. When they steady telling you he's not breathing, he's not moving, would you check his pulse? Would you look? Nah. You guilty. In the end, you are guilty. Which one of them things you up for are you guilty for? I don't know, but you're guilty. I know that. So, tomorrow will be day 8, and we'll see how this go. And if the Sergeant Jody Stagger gonna be back, I hope so. Because, honey, I think he was about to give us all the juiciness of the smackdown of you was wrong, period. You was wrong, period. That's why I think he was going with his testimony. So we shall see tomorrow, because I sure enough will be reporting that to you, and go on from there. So day 8 coming up. It's your girl Serene here, and I'm back today to discuss day 3 of the state of Minneapolis against Derek Chauvin. So I'm sorry, I'm getting my notes together because I want to pick off exactly where I left. Okay, so for day 8, not 3, I'm sorry, this is day 8. I apologize for that. So for day 8, they did go back to Sergeant Stagger where they left off yesterday. And they did pick up with the defense doing a cross-examination of him. And basically through this cross-examination, the defense pretty much was trying to get the officer, the specialist, to admit, well, they don't call, well, he's not called a specialist, he's considered an expert witness for the state, and he the one that ruled it a that he basically, messed up. It's his fault that George Floyd died. And the defense spends most of their time trying to get him to admit that basically because of the circumstances around him and because of the way the footage was taken and because he was probably on drugs, all these are the reason George Floyd is dead, not because Derek Chauvin had his knee on his neck for 9 minutes and some seconds. No, that wasn't it, according to the defense. According to the defense, he's really sticking with the defense that the mob interfered and put the police on a higher alert than they were already on, and this is why they could not render any type of aid whatsoever to George Floyd. So the expert, nope, didn't fall for that. And pretty much, no. He pretty much stated that it was not justified use of force at all whatsoever. And the thing is, I don't understand why the defense keep trying to lead with this, because my thing is, okay, again, even if he believed that George Floyd was overdosing like his defense is trying to say, are you telling me that you really believe it was okay not to do, and you're all of you are trained and carrying Narcan in your police vehicles, and now one of you went to grab that, try to assist him with that or anything. So basically you still saying, okay, he was overdosing, but we still didn't render no help to him. That's what I'm hearing every time his lawyer tried this whole defense that it was everybody's fault but Derek Chauvin, basically, because it's what he's saying in so many words. The sergeant, he also played a tape for the sergeant asking him if he can hear what George is saying in the video, and it's like a very small clip. Like, you can tell he probably said one sentence and they cut it off. Like, it made no sense. But I clearly heard the word please at the end. But he is trying to say that in that one sentence, George Floyd said, I ate too many drugs. The sergeant said he cannot determine that. He played it again. He still said he could not determine that, he could not hear that. Which I don't think any of us heard that. So then after he did that, he also questioned him about the crowd, which I don't even know why they keep calling a handful of people a crowd, but whatever, we roll with it. The crowd. He asked him, did he feel the crowd was an angry mob? And he said, no, I felt they was concerned. You know, which your police officers were not. He said they were concerned. He also said, okay, so even after the name calling began, you still don't consider this an angry mob? He said, no, they were concerned. Period. They never threw anything. They never threatened to attack or anything. They never tried to do any of the above actions that he keep trying to make this crowd out to be. That ain't even a crowd. It's a handful of folks, number one. It became a crowd for a minute, and that was when the store workers came out and joined the little handful of people that was there. But then they went back into the store. That some of the other employees came out and put them back into the store because they were getting very highly upset with the police. Like, what the freak? He also, the defense, tried to get the sergeant to admit that because the original call to the scene was to hurry up and get there, he was already heightened when he got there, which means when he got there and saw the officers struggling with Floyd, that heightened him even more. And then with the crowd going on, that heightened him even more. So in other words, he's just a bunch of big ball of scariness from the time he pulled up and basically killed this man. He was scared the whole time because remember, he didn't get off him until the ambulance said verbally, "Can you get off him?" So he was just scared. I don't think law enforcement in any shape, way, or form, bodyguard. I don't even know how he was being a bodyguard. I mean, you scary. Again, they need to come up with a test to be determining if these folks scared like that, because a police officer should not be scared of folks that ain't threatening them. I'm sorry. He should not. He should not. And you ain't gonna tell me this the first time this man done been called out his name before. You see, I'm not gonna believe that. Not at all. After that testimony, we had the senior special service officer. Yes. His name was James Ryerson. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I might be wrong. My bad if I am. He is the head of the investigation unit for the crime scene. Force of the. I'm sorry. Let's start that over again. The next witness is Officer James Ryerson. And he is the senior special service officer in the use of force investigation office. And so basically he would be on the scene before the crime scene people got there or whatever, to take over the scene, close it in, to get all the evidence they would need to investigate the use of force. And so basically he would also go through every piece of evidence, the video that was found from their precinct, the street one, the girl videoed, and the other people that was outside videoed. Basically, he is to go through all evidence to determine, whether the use of force was okay or not, which we all know it was determined that it was not, because all 4 officers was fired the next day. Now, he was also asked about the video and whether or not he heard Floyd saying, "I ate too many drugs." And he said, yeah, that's what he heard. But then the prosecution came back to do another re-examination with him. And they played the whole statement George made. And that's when he says what he heard was, "I ain't do no drugs." I don't think the defense gonna play that tape no more. After that, I think he's done with that. So after that, they had a lot of forensic scientists testify about the evidence they tested and what it was. They did find drugs in the back of the police car, on the floor, and they also found a smoking pipe in Floyd's car, which was tested and had THC in it. It was no buds of weed or nothing like that, but the residue that's in there. If you ever smoked a pipe, the residue that's left in there, that's all they had to test, which of course came back that it was the THC, which we know equals marijuana. They did find 2 tablets, also in George car, if I'm not mistaken, that were Percocets, is what they basically were. And then the other pills that were found in the police car was a multitude of different drugs they named, so which would be what they call a speedball. So they talked to them about that, and that was pretty much it for today. But basically, you just really see the defense is really just on this. He's a drug addict. He overdosed. It was his fault, and it was the crowd fault around him that stopped the police officers from even trying to give him any type of help, even though the crowd clearly was begging him to give the man some help, although according to Chauvin and his attorney, that was a threatening thing, and they were too scared to act. The crazy part is, in the video, you only see the 4 officer. Kind of found out it was a 5th officer there.
Yeah, and we found out also that in similar cases, we're not releasing information about this case.
Isn't that something?
These can go anywhere from 300.
I don't, the thing is, it does to me, and again, my opinion, it doesn't matter. Let's say he did die from an overdose. Let's say that was the cause of his death. This man still could have had a chance to be saved if he was given some type of help. Instead, you remain with your knee on his neck, never rendering any type of aid. But not only is your knee on his neck, you have another officer on his back and another one on his legs. He is literally being pinned down by 3 different body heights, weights, all of this. How do you justify that and you do nothing to try to save this man's life? I mean, nothing. Please, I really need some clarity on this. I don't understand why, but I guess for the defense, their whole thing is to create reasonable doubt. But the thing that there's no doubt of, this man's knee was on his neck for 9 minutes and some change. Okay? Yeah. Ain't no way around that. I don't care if he did overdose or not. At all. I do not. At all. The thing is, his whole defense sound like the same thing us African Americans have been hearing since the beginning of time. You came up on the scene, you saw a big African American man not cooperating with your officer, and you went into automatic, they are vicious, they are either drug dealers or drug addicts, they're vicious, they violent, and that's how you saw it, and that's how you responded, and that's how you acted. The bottom line is you were called there for a fake $20 bill, and this man no longer has his life because of your assumptions and the lack of care. The fact that y'all just did not care about this man's well-being whatsoever, as a human, as a man, as anything, drug addict and all. You didn't care. You didn't care what the crowd was saying around you. You didn't care about anything but what you were focused on, and that was literally just holding that man down. And I honestly think he was getting a kick out of it, which plainly shows on his face in the video, if you ask me. That's why you put your hands in your pocket, because your whole demeanor was, it don't matter how much y'all scream or holler, I'm not getting off this man. And he didn't lie with his eyes, because he never got off of that man. And literally into the ambulance, man had to literally tap him and ask him to move. Period. He's responsible for that man's death. That's how I see it. And I hope that's how the jury's seeing it. Seriously. So, of course, I will be back with day 9 and 10. And, okay, so my camera done went dead on me. So, I had to record this on my little laptop. So, basically, I'm just saying, that will be the end of the video for me. And if you made it to the end of my video, thank you for watching. And please do not forget to subscribe, like, share this video with your friends and family. And please don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload a video. So, thank you, and everybody have a blessed day. Mwah.